Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And today we have a very diverse pool, and we have Ishwar. He has an extremely rich international work experience. Mr. Siddharth, he is a chartered accountant by profession. And Ms. Anshika, she has a data analytics background. Going to go to the ISB early entry option. She's an early entry option admit going to the ISB batch of 25. And Mr. Swar, he has a rich experience in merchant navy. So with all these, extremely talented people with us here today. So we hope for this discussion on the ISB PGP admissions process and their experience on the same. So let's start with introductions. Please share your career journey till date. Ishwar, I think you can go first. You have an international work experience, and how did you compare and evaluate the ISB vis-a-vis an international business school?
Sure. Thank you, Shruti. Thanks for having me. Yeah, like Shruti said, my name is Ishwar. I come from Chennai, and I am a chemical engineer by undergrad. And after chemical engineering, I had about 2.5 years of experience in KPMG India. And I was working with them in the risk consulting vertical as advising financial institutions on data security and information risk. So after the 2.5 years of experience in KPMG, I wanted to get some international experience. So I went on to do my Masters of Management course in the food and beverage industry for about that was a 1 year course that I did in Milan, Italy, in a school called SDA Bocconi. So after that 1 year of a great studying experience, I was able to get into a company in Milan, and I was doing sales and marketing for a company that manufactured machines for the food industry. So I was able to take in whatever management experience I got from KPMG and mix that with the food and beverage experience. I mean, food and beverage theoretical experience that I got from the course, plus the fact that I had done food technology back in chemical engineering. So I was able to mix all these together and work in this company for about 4 years, yeah, almost 4 years. After which I felt that the time was right to go through the rigor of a proper MBA, and here I am waiting to get into the ISB Hyderabad's MBA course, and looking forward to it. This is in a nutshell of who I am and where I come from. But with regards to how I compare and evaluate ISB vis-a-vis an international B school, that's an interesting question because see, I subscribe to and I come from a school of thought that says knowledge is whatever that remains in your head many years after you graduate out of a school or a college or anything like that, right? So, in with that definition, the peer learning or the kind of people that you meet or the things that you learn from other your peers is very important for me. To be brutally honest, SDA Bocconi is probably ranked number 6 in the world right now for MBA, the latest Financial Times ranking. But I did not do MBA, I did a Masters of Management course. But what I did experience was the peer group was not at the same level as what you can find in India. I think genuinely that Indians are a bit smarter. Maybe because I'm a bit biased because I'm Indian myself, but we are a smarter bunch. So the reason why I say that is because the Masters of Management course was a walk in the park for me. It was so easy to get through the course, and it was not a huge challenge. I loved the experience that I got, but I wish there was more. So in a cohort where there is majority Indians, in case of ISP, it's fully Indians, what can actually go wrong? I think it is better than most of the other universities, most of the other experiences that I can get. Again, this is completely my personal opinion, and I know a lot of people who would agree to it, and some people who wouldn't as well. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to choose ISB, and the last and second reason was personal. I felt that the next 10 to 20 years belongs to India. I was able to see that firsthand when I was working in Europe, and I also traveled extensively to the US. So I was able to get the perspective of the West, so to say, and I saw firsthand how the opinion of the West changed with respect to India, especially after COVID and the Ukraine war. So all things put together, I felt that coming back to India at this point would be the best way forward for me in my career.
Thank you, Ishwar. And I am not too sure if we have Siddharth. Siddharth, are we audible? Are we connected? So let's hear from Anshika. So Anshika, you plan to apply to the ISB early entry option. So please share your career journey till date, and also as to why you chose the early entry option and why not wait for a few more years to apply to the PGP. What was the thought process there?
Yeah, so I'm Anshika Gangrade. I'm from Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and I've done my engineering from NIT Nagpur in metallurgical engineering, and then I joined an analytics company, Fractal Analytics. I've been working there for about a year now, more than a year now, and I work for a CPG client that has I work on their sales data and sales, mostly sales data. So I've been working there for a year, but I realized, so for the second question, I realized that until I'm working as an analyst, I don't actually get to take any decisions. I'm just working on the data, just playing with numbers, giving them reports, but I'm not actually doing anything there. I'm not using my potential in terms of decision making mostly. So that's why I decided to join early entry option. Plus, I mean, why not? I'm getting an option to apply through a process where I will be studying with PGP students that are going to be elder than me, that have so much more experience than me. So the peer pool that I will be studying with is going to be it's going to be very rich. So I mean, the answer to second question is why not? If I'm getting such a great opportunity to apply early, so that was the reason mostly why I wanted to join through early entry option. And my career journey is really short because I've just worked for 1 year. So that's about it. So yeah.
Yeah, Anchika, we had this question from a participant as well, a viewer who wanted to understand, when do you feel that, okay, your profile is ready for early entry option? And when do you feel confident that, okay, let me apply now rather than wait for another 2, 3 years? Are there any benchmarks or criteria that you used over there?
Okay, so yes, initially I felt that my profile is it's not good enough. I've not, because on GMAT Club I was going through profiles that where people write their profiles. This is my profile. I'm going to apply for PGP ISB. So I thought, shit, I'm not good enough. My profile is not good enough for ISB yet. But I talked to Shruti and she told me that there's no benchmark. There's nothing like that. So you just have to give your GMAT and give your best at the essays and in the interview preparation. I don't believe there's any benchmark. It's just about your essays and how you give your interview. If you are, I mean, it's mostly if you feel you are ready, then you are ready. There is no benchmark in terms of what ISB thinks that you should have at least this much of or this kind of experience. So that's what I feel.
Correct. So I think ISB gives you an option to apply just because they think that yes, people at this level can also apply if they have a clear plan in their mind. So what is more important is that if you have a clear plan to go ahead with this, plus at the same time, have you worked well enough towards the achieving that plan? So if you feel you are achieving those two benchmarks, then it is a good option to go with the early entry option as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. So we also have Swar with us, and Swar has a very interesting background with the Merchant Navy. So Swar, please share your career journey and how does the ISB PGP fit into the career plans?
Okay, yes. Okay. Very good morning to everyone present, and thank you for having me here, Uma. And so I'll give a brief introduction about myself and my career journey. So I'm Swar Sood, and I hail from Shimla, Himachal Pradesh. And I've done my BTech from Tulani Maritime Institute, which is an off-campus institute of BITS Pilani. And from my institute only, I was selected by a shipping company called NYKSM for their cadet training program. And after successful completion of my onboard training on board 2 different ships and obtaining my navigational officer license from the government of India, I was reinstated in the same company in the capacity of a third navigating officer. So then in merchant navy, I sailed in different types of ships, like ships transporting cars, crude oil, jet fuel, and liquefied petroleum gas. So, being in the merchant navy and sailing on a wide variety of ships, I got a very close quarter view of the entire supply chain industry, the operation, particularly the operations and logistics aspect of this industry. And I was always intrigued by the planning and decision making part going on behind the operations I was executing. But as Anshika said, I was always feeling like I was also a mere executor only. And I did knew that if I keep continuing going on this career path, yes, it does make a good impact. It is a good profession, but I'm I'm still an executor only, and I wanted to be in that planning and decision making part, and I won't get that opportunity. So that's when I decided that if I wanted to make a transition, how should I make it? And I did my research, and then I found a gap that I lack some business knowledge and some other aspects. And if I can build on my present skill set and combine the business knowledge I can gain from an MBA, the network I gain, I'll be able to achieve my goal, which I'm aiming for. And that is how I decided, okay, MBA will be a viable option to go to make the transition successful. And once I had decided that I wanted to do an MBA, then it was a question from where I wanted to do. And the first thing that comes whether you want to stay in India or you want to go abroad. So that for me was very clear. I wanted my long term goal to be in India only. So I logged in on India. And then ISB is one of the best schools in India for MBA. So I decided to apply for ISB MBA, and yes, I did make it. One of the primary reasons for me selecting ISB was also because I come from a very diverse background, and ISB has a proven track record in helping people from diverse background making that transition successful. So that was the main reason for me for selecting for ISB.
Right. I am still waiting for Siddharth. Right. So, a very frequent question that we are asked is about, profile evaluation. So, when you are, you can actually do a profile evaluation for yourself when you are thinking of applying to any B school, not only ISP. So, just sharing an internal rubric that we use for evaluating a profile is that if you look at the benchmarks or the scores that the things that the schools are evaluating you against, that is one is the academics, then you have the GMAT or the GRE score, and years of experience and quality of work experience. Again, you every applicant is expected to have some unique attributes and experiences that set them apart. Again, demonstrated initiatives and the extracurricular activities and leadership roles you have been a part of. So, going by the school averages, you can see what the school expectation is and where do you exactly stand. So, if we assume that at a top B school, the school average would be a GPA would be around 80 to 85%. These are assumptions that we have put for ourselves. These are not any numbers which are coming from any source on the school or anything. These are numbers that we benchmark our profiles accordingly. So just put yourself on any on place yourself on the rubric in terms of where do you stand with respect to the academics, the GMAT, GRE, the school averages. These are very well published by the schools, and average years of work experience. This is again well published by the schools. And if you look at the value statements, you will also see the attributes that they value. The unique attributes and the experiences. If it is diversity, if it is extracurriculars, if it is entrepreneurship. So these attributes are very well known. And you can actually place your own experience vis-a-vis the rest of the benchmarks and see what are the pluses and minuses in your own profile. So a very important part of this discussion and applying to the B school is your, GMAT or the GRE. So as working professionals, especially people who are working internationally, and in Swar's case, you were traveling most of the time. For Anshika, I'm pretty sure you had a whole lot of work to deliver at your work engagements. So, what was your experience like on working on the GMAT, and what are the strategies and resources that were really helpful for you in this process? So, in case Ishwar, you would like to take this up first.
So the score that actually got me into ISB was my fourth attempt at GMAT. The first two attempts were more than 5 years ago, which I used to get into Bocconi. Since that had expired, I had to go and give it again. So initially, I was studying by myself with GMAT Club, and I was able to get tons of resources. But the only problem is there was no method to the madness. So I gave an attempt on end of September, if I'm not wrong, and I ended up with mid 600 score. So that was not enough. I knew that it was not enough. So what I decided to do is I canceled it, and then I got into another test prep platform, and they helped me to organize the way in which I studied, and that helped a lot. So coming from a CBSE background, my math was never a problem for me. I was already at 50-51 level, and English was the biggest problem for me. So I was able to structure my approach towards getting better at verbal, and I was able to do that with platform, and I ended up getting 710. um, the way in which I prepared was that, so I had a good relationship with my company, so they knew that I was kind of preparing. So I was not really under pressure to make time every day to study. They knew my schedule, and I was able to structure it pretty well. So the final attempt I gave in November, just like 2 or 3 weeks before the R2 deadline for ISB, and I was luckily able to get the score that I wanted.
Great. And so we have Siddharth connected with us now. Siddharth, we would like you to share your profile first, your background, your experiences, and how does ISB come into place. And post that, you can pick up your tips and strategies on preparing for the GMAT as well, please.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what was the issue with the network, but yeah. So I'm a chartered accountant and I qualified in November 2017. And since then, I've been working in the statutory audit space. I was working with Walker Chandiok and Co. For 3 years after my qualification, where I audited various clients from diverse industries, so listed retail clients or e-commerce startups, different types of clients, IPO assignments. And for the last 2 years, I've been handling UK clients, auditing UK clients, mainly in the public sector space. So that is about my profile. And so basically, I wanted to pivot my career. I wanted to go into a more strategy kind of role. So that's why I wanted a MBA, and that's why I became into the picture.
Right. And what about the preparation for GMAT? As a working professional, what are the challenges that you faced, and what are some tips that you would like to share with people who are preparing for the GMAT right now?
So I prepared briefly in 2020, just before COVID. So I started preparing then, but I just prepared 2 or 3 months, and it was very on the weekends only. And then the COVID wave came, and the work pressure was too much, to do the GMAT prep on the side. So I just parked that. And then this year, sorry, 2022 August. So I started preparing in August, and my exam was on November, 8th of November. So I had around 3 months, and I worked and I prepared for around 1 or 2 hours every day. So I mean, consistency is very important. So 1 or 2 hours every day is better than 5 or 6 hours on the weekend. So I prepared 1 or 2 hours every day, and what I did was on the first day of my preparation, I gave the first free MBA.com free mock test, and I knew what kind of score I am at and how much prep I need. So yeah, I think that was enough for me to get a 60-70 point improvement.
Right. And just coming back to the rubric over here that I previously shared. So when we look at all these criteria, it actually, it is very important to remember that all of these are equally important. So it is not that only the GMAT or the GRE is important or only the academics is important. If you think that you are scoring well on any of the other, parts like a unique attribute or your experiences or your initiatives, and you probably don't have a 710 GMAT or a 326 GRE, even that is fine. You should have faith in your preparation, your story, and then be able to go ahead and apply. So I think, Swar, you can add the maximum inputs to this in terms of uh, how you thought of the GMAT preparation process. You plan to take it up once again, but because of your travel engagement, you were not able to do that. So what is your suggestion on this point?
So regarding GMAT, I always say that whenever you have decided you want to give the GMAT and you have decided you've finalized, first thing you should do, decide on the timeline that you must take to prepare, like 3 months, 4 months, whatever suits you. And you should definitely book an exam, because this exam is in our hands. We always are reluctant that, okay, if not today, we'll shift it another week, another 2 weeks, and this keeps on happening until and unless you have booked your exam and you have that sight, okay, someday my exam is going to come. So you have that sight and you navigate through it. So most important thing, just right when you start your journey for GMAT, you need to book your exam, in my opinion. Second, as Siddharth said, consistency is the key. Practicing every day, even for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and not leaving aside, not even a single day, I would say, is the best you can do. I mean, do some from GMAT Club questions every day. You can download their app, and you can just, while you're outside also, like I used to be on a ship, and I used to just take out 10, 15 minutes and do questions from GMAT Club. And Ishwar said that yes, he did not solely rely on GMAT Club, but took someone's help or some coaching from an online vendor or anything. So I also took that, and it was really helpful. So you need someone to guide you, and that's it. Maintain consistency, book your exam, and give maximum marks. That's the key, and you'll crack it definitely. You have attempts, you have nothing to lose. First attempt won't be fine. You'll go for second. And another thing which happened with me, I gave my first attempt, and then I was like happy initially with my initial score, and then you told me, ma'am, that you should try improving your score, and I procrastinated, and I was never able to give the exam again. So it's very hard to get back to books again. So even if you don't succeed in your first attempt, you should try giving another attempt within 1 month. That's it. Maintain consistency and plan your mocks. Give maximum mocks as much as possible.
Right. And Anchika, are there any resources that you would like to share, that helped you prepare for the test?
So I used the free resources for studying, and for mocks I took Manhattan mocks because I read everywhere that those were the best mocks that you can take, and the official mocks, of course, because that's the closest to the actual exam, because of the computer adaptive thing. So that they are the closest. So that is there. And also mocks are really important because it's a very long exam. So I realized that since I was not studying for last 2 years, and then I started preparing for GMAT. So I realized that towards the end, towards like the last half an hour, I'm zoned out because it's a long exam and I'm not very used to studying. So the more mocks I gave, the more used to I got to the timeline. And another thing I realized was, if either you get the question right or you do it very fast, because if I know if I'm not getting the answer right, then I should not spend a lot of time on the question. I should just I should I so I, if I'm not getting the question right, I should do it fast, because in English and verbal it's mostly about time management. So and that also comes through mocks. So I believe if I have to give one advice, it would be give as many mocks as you can.
Right. So Ravi Shankar has joined us, and he has a question. What is the average GRE score, and does the AWA score, is it considered or not? So the average GRE score for ISB has been around 326. And the AWA score, whether it is considered or not, we do assume that it is considered unless the school says that it is not considered. So, for example, for the GMAT score, the school does mention that the IR score is not considered. So that is the case. So definitely the AWA score is considered because there's no such mention that it is not going to be important. So you should pay attention to both your writing skills as well as the test taking as well. Yes, please, Dishwar.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to take 2 more minutes to add one more point, and I'm sure that Anshika, Swar, and Siddharth would agree with me. The more mocks you give, especially with respect to GMAT, I was probably too late in realizing it, but GMAT is just a game. So essentially, if you get like the first 10 or 12 questions right, so there is this graph that you can find that online as well. So essentially, it's a game where like if you get your level up in the first few questions, and after that it is it becomes a bit easier in terms of not giving up on that high score. So the first 10 or 15 questions is super important, after which like Anshika said, even if you are technically zoning out in the last 30 minutes of the test, it might not have a huge impact on your score that you end up with. It was just one more point that I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more aspect over here is that giving when you write the GMAT once, is there anything that really impacts your attempt just out of the fear factor, or just because of the pressure of the exam, and then you feel that okay, the next attempt is, has any one of you felt that, and what are some things that you worked around to handle this? Did you feel that in the first exam there was something like a zoning out happening just because of the pressure of the
Yeah.
exam, and then with this similar level of preparation you could do better in the second exam?
So I only took one attempt, but what I can say is it wasn't my best attempt because a couple of days before that I took the official mock and my score was 20 points higher than what I actually got, and that was kind of a test day anxiety, or you can call. I mean, initial 10-15 minutes you take some time to settle down, and so I thought that brought my score 10-20 points down, but I still thought that it's a decent score to apply with, so I went ahead with that. But yeah, it definitely happens in your first attempt. You do have test day anxiety.
Right.
And with regard
And
to the resources, I'd like to add there's a advanced question book from the GMAC association. That is very helpful as well if you want to increase your score above 700. So you should
right.
definitely consider that.
And one more question, I think you guys can take it up as well. Does it also, the Panch asked, does it also matter how much time we spend on the initial questions? So have you felt that, spending time on the initial questions, does that have a bearing on the score? Any inputs on that?
So I think, like Ishwar said, that if you get the first few questions right, there's a higher chance that you will end up with a higher score, because it's a game and that's how it works. So so I actually use that strategy, that I gave a little more time to the initial questions so that I am able to get so I can get those right and end up with a higher score, even if I'm zoning out in the end or not getting the last few questions wrong. So I don't know if it helps everybody, but this strategy did help me to give a little more time to the initial questions.
Right. And Ishwar, you wanted to add something here?
No, nothing. Exactly what Anshika said. So the first few. So I think there are 36 questions in verbal, if I'm not wrong. So out of 36, my target itself was 30 questions. I just wanted to attempt 30 questions in the stipulated 65 minutes or whatever. And after that, I just wanted to, randomly guess the last 5, 6 questions. And that kind of strategy does help out, because the first questions are the ones that matter. And it is okay if you are spending a minute more or a minute and a half more on the first 10 or 15 questions compared to the latter part of the test.
Right. Okay.
I would like
So,
to add one thing,
yes,
ma'am,
yes,
regarding
please.
GMAT only. But yes, you should try acing the first few questions, but don't ever, don't skip the last few. Mark them wrong, but don't ever skip a question. You should not leave any question like 2 or 3 questions you have not attempted, mark them wrong. Anyhow, like 30 questions is a good target. You should get going, but and you don't need to get emotional with any question. Sometimes we are on the next question and we keep thinking about, oh, this could be done, and just focus on the question hand. It's a very adaptive test. It plays with your mind. It's a game actually. So that's it, and that's why mocks help. The more mocks you give, the better you get at it.
Better you get at playing the game. So I think
Yes.
now GMAT is changing the game as well. So they're coming up with a new version of this game, which is called the GMAT Focus Edition, and this has a lot of changes that the people who are preparing for the GMAT, they should keep in mind. So they have a lot more flexibility now to, adjust what sections they want to give first. And earlier there were 4 sections. Now there are going to be 3 sections of 45 minutes each. So you don't have to write any essays anymore. No AWA essays for the GMAT. And I think this version of the GMAT will be available probably by end of June. 24 or 23. Let's see, there's no tentative date as such. So you might want to go back to your GMAT tutors and see if you want to tweak your preparation on the GMAT on this. Casey has a question. Can I apply if I'm living in Australia? Yes, Casey, you can definitely apply if you're living in Australia. So ISB has a huge pool of international applicants every year, and you can definitely you just need the GMAT score in place for the round one. So, guys, one more question was that what would be a good timeline to write the GMAT so that you can start with the applications on time? So, what would be your suggestion on that? You can pick it up as you want. So, if you're planning to apply
So
to
I think
R1, which is tentatively in September, by let's assume September mid, by when should you get done with your GMAT or GRE?
I gave myself 20-25 days from the last date to, once I get my GMAT done, I can then prepare my essays. But you might want to give more time. So I didn't have that option because I didn't have that much time. But you might want to, account for if you want to take a reattempt, if you want to give another attempt if you don't get the target score. So 15-20 days for that. So probably 1.5 months before the application deadline.
Right. And any leverages that you need to keep for taking up a second attempt. So, for example, right now we are at end of March. So by when should you have the first attempt and then look at second attempt? People who have given second attempts like Ishwar, and in case you want to suggest anything on that front.
Uh, Sorry, Shruti, you just broke for a few seconds. Can
I'll
you
tell you.
repeat that?
Yes. So my question is that, since you are starting, if somebody is starting off with the preparation in March, what would be a good timeline for them to plan multiple attempts as well? If they have to, they might have to write the GMAT once more. So what would be a good timeline to plan a multiple attempt so that they are well in time for R1 applications?
So R1, like you said, most of the applications are late August, September, right? So essentially, the idea is give yourself time for 2 attempts. So GMAT lets you take a second attempt 16 days after you've taken one attempt. So make sure that you have like I think Siddharth said it like a month back. If you plan your first attempt, means that 15 days before the deadline, you have the chance to write it again, which means that you have 2 more weeks to prepare your essays. Having said that, it is better to start preparing on the essays and start mulling over the points that you want to put in the essays directly, because, like you said, Shruti, this is not GMAT is not the be all end all. There are other parts of the application that are equally important. So that's what I would suggest. One, start writing, giving an attempt 1 month before each deadline, and I mean the deadlines that you are interested in, and I think that should get you through.
Right. And Swar and Anshika, in case you would like to add something in terms of the timeline for writing the GMAT versus preparing the application, what is a good time for that? Anshika, in
I
case, yeah.
believe if you are if you have enough time to decide if you want to give a second attempt or not, that would be very good. So when I was preparing for my essays and writing the application, I was very confused if I want to give a second attempt, but I did not have enough time. So had I had that time, I would maybe have given a second attempt. So I would suggest that at least give it a month and a half before you start working for the application, so that if you feel like you want to give a second attempt, you have that time. So yeah.
Right. So, are any inputs from your end?
Same, I would say, like I said, 3 months, in my opinion, is sufficient. So if someone is preparing from today, 18th March, so around 15th June to 20th June, he should plan his test, and he or she should see their result. And then if they want to give second attempt, again, they have 1 to 1.5 months, and still they have good time to prepare along for the application for applying in first round. So right now is
Right.
a good time to book mid-June, I guess.
Right. So all the members on our panel today, they have very unique experiences and background. So, coming from the background, for example, Ishwar, you coming from an international applicant background. So what was your experience on working on the essays, and what do you suggest is important to write strong essays for the ISB application?
Sure. Good question. Especially for applicants like me, I have more than 6 years of work experience. So there are a lot of things that I want to say, but unfortunately, only 400 words is permitted on the essay. So you tend to end up giving information that is probably not as relevant for the application as you might think. So what I did was of course, I don't doubt my own abilities to write a good essay. I went with an essay to Shruti actually, and Shruti was able to help me understand that storytelling was not everything, but perspectives matter. So from my perspective, I felt that the story I wrote was absolutely amazing, and then every school should invite me with an offer, but that's not the case. She helped me understand that each school is unique, each school is different, each school looks for certain traits and characteristics in the applicants, and you need to tailor make the essays based on that. So that's something that I learned through the process. So I learned that storytelling as a skill is important, but at the same time, you also need to be wary about the people who are reading it and uh, considering uh, considering you for as a candidate in the B school, and it's difficult for you to do it by yourself. And let me tell you why. Um, the evaluators, they immediately wear the lens of the school, and the moment they start reading your application or going through your essays, they know what they're looking for. So only if you give them exactly what they are looking for in that first glance will you have a chance to progress through, let's say, their filtering parameters and get into that final list of candidates who end up getting selected. So so make sure that you pull in all the things that you want to say, and cut and paste whatever you feel is important, and then take an expert's opinion on how to further condense it and reduce it based on the school that you're applying to, and you should get through.
Right. And in terms of your experience with the application process, Siddharth, what would you suggest? What is the timeline we have already discussed? So what makes a strong ISB application from your perspective?
So, I mean, I don't know if I ended up with a strong essay, but I mean, what I tried to do was give it a bit of a structure and be as honest as I can. There were in the peer learning essay, so there were 2 or 3 things that I had done at my work which I was genuinely proud of. So I made sure that I highlight that in my essay, and then the other goals essay, I just tried to give them, a full story of where I was coming from, where I want to go, and what I need to go there. So and how ISB will help. So I think those 4 things, if you cover in your goals essay, that should be done. And in your other essay, where you have to tell about what you can contribute to the class, whatever you have done at work, just pick 2 or 3 things which are, really you think stand out, and highlight that through your essay.
Right. And Anshika, you come with a very specific, background where less work experience is given for your early entry option application. While at the same time, everybody who's applying to early entry option will have a similar range of experience as you had. So, was that a limitation, and how did you, plan your essays?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it did seem like a limitation that I have a very less work experience. I started writing the essay and I thought, what am I going to write in 400 words, because I don't have that much experience and things to write. So I kept asking Shruti that what do I need to write? How will I write? How will I be able to write 400 words? And she said that लड़ाई करने से पहले ही हथियार मत डाल दो. So that was what she told me. And then I started writing my application in, so whatever I had, whatever experience I had, I started to frame it. And I understood that good English is not equal to a good essay. It's neither is it necessary nor is it sufficient, because they are looking for your experience, they are looking for your qualities, not good English, is what I feel. So just formulate everything that you have learned. And like Ishwar said, that there is exactly, every school is looking for something, and if they get exactly what they're looking for, then you get it. So less work experience or more work experience, that doesn't matter. You just have to give them what they are looking for, and that could be in 3 years of experience or in 6 months of experience as well. So so to answer the second question, it did seem like a limitation in the beginning, but I don't believe it was a limitation. Actually, it was just in my head.
Right. And Swar, in your case, you actually did not have corporate experience to, translate it directly in terms of what the essays are looking for, what the school is looking for, because your transition is from a very different field. How was your approach to the essays, putting up an application for a business school coming from a merchant navy background?
Yes. So my approach was simple as you guided me through it. It was simple. I had just to introspect. For anyone, it is the main point for essays. You need to introspect as much as you can. At least, I mean, take a paper and write down every day what all you have done till day, what you think has made an impact on organization or any person or anything. So you need to see that anything you can, anything of relevance you have done, you might think it is of relevance, other might think it is not. So you just need to write down everything and think that, okay, you need to build up stories. Okay, so you shared a questionnaire with me, so that kind of structured it in a way in which I began thinking. So in my opinion, you need 2 to 3 weeks to just make your like resume, sort of jot down all the points in which there has been an impact or anything, and you'll come up with, you should know yourself. Basically, you should know your end goal, what you want to do. Like, this is a question for every year: what are your short term goals and long term goals? So if you don't know that, how will you write it? And Anshika rightly said, good English is not equal to good essay. You don't need to use buzzwords or anything. Just make it simple and crisp. 400 words is all it. And like, when initially I when I came across the topics, I was like, what have I done, what not? But once you start, it builds on day. Day one, you'll write 2 3 point. Day two, and you'll see, okay, there has been many things, and you'll try figuring out something from it, and then you can get it reviewed from alums, or if you're working with some consultancy, then I think the essay will come out. It will come out, but you need to know yourself, and you should know your goal, why you're going to a business school. That should be clear, and you will be able to write a good essay. Like, I knew my goal, and that's why, even though not having a corporate experience and a very different essay, I was able to make it. So I guess other people can also make it.
Very true. And just rephrasing, what everyone has said, that know what the school is looking for. So it's exactly, you should know your work experience really well. You should know your different experiences outside of work, what you've done in college, why you've done that, and what you've learned from there. So know your experiences really well so that you are able to translate in terms of, make that correlation with what values match with respect to how do you, fit with what the school values. So it's not about creating stories, it's about looking at your stories at such in a deep level that you're able to make those connections with the school values as well. So that's what requires time in terms of writing a good essay. So we have Shavika, and she has a question. Do you feel with an average profile but with an excellent essay, a candidate still holds a good chance? Average profile as in a tier 2, 3 undergrad, 70 to 80% in undergrad and plus 2 years of work experience. So Shavika, your profile actually has two parts. One is the basic numbers that you are coming with. That means what are your years of work experience, your GMAT or GRE score, and your undergrad and your other grades. The second part is your story as a professional, as a personal, as a person, as an individual. So there is actually no benchmark where we can say that a profile is average or a profile is above average. It is always a mix of a lot of things. You need to be very sure that what you've done with your undergrad and whatever you've scored over there is something that you cannot change now. So one thing that you can work on is your GMAT or GRE score. So do that. At the same time, look at your profile in a very again at a deep level in terms of understanding how do you fit with what the school wants. So an excellent essay can only be written if that value matches. So there is nothing known as an excellent essay. It is just that you understand where you click with the school and you're able to communicate it on paper. So definitely, if you think that that connection is there, then the average profile becomes above average because you are able to connect at 3 out of 6 important points, perhaps. So look at it from the holistic point of view. The school also looks at it similarly. So don't call yourself as an average profile just because of those numbers. There are many more things that go into making a strong profile. And I think a closer look at your resume would really be important to decide as to whether you stand as a fit or not.
Can I just add one thing to that,
Yes,
ma'am?
please,
So
please.
so I mean, never think that your profile is average and you can't get into the school, because I also used to think that when I started my preparation, because of one or two things in my profile. So I thought my profile is average and I can never get into the school. But unless and until you try, you will never know. So take the best possible help and give it a try, even if you think you have an average profile.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, I would also like to add something. So, even I thought in the beginning that my profile is not good, it's very average, and my profile is not good enough basically. But what I understood towards the end was that the more thorough you are about your essay and your experience, the the more you know what was your experience, why you did that, and how it fits with the like Shruti said, how it fits with what they are looking for, the better is the profile. It's not what you did, but it's what you did and how that fits with the application and what they're looking for. So I don't there's no average application. There's just how thorough you are with what you have done and how it fits.
Right. And Ishwar and Swar, in case you want to add your inputs to this answer.
So what I think about fitness of profile, honestly, is I think it does not matter at all. Like we've all been discussing until now, there are many parts to make a good application, and even if one part is not satisfactory, you can make it up with another. And it's all about structuring your application in a way that is convincing to the university. So it's not. It's not, there are no hard and fast rules about how to go into even if you have done engineering and you had the chance to be an astronaut and some fate made you into a Bharatanatyam instructor, you can still weave a story around it and make it worthwhile for B school to consider you. So definitely there is nothing called fit. It's all about how you present your case.
Swar, in case you would like to add anything over here for what makes a profile average or above average.
It's not. You just need to know yourself and present it in a nice manner, in a crisp manner. So the other person reading it, like you said to me, the other person reading it should say कि boss इसको MBA चाहिए. Essay is the first. It's the first thing that will get you through to an interview. So work as hard as you can for it and introspect as much as you can, and you'll get through it. Then you'll realize, okay, I have done so much everyone thinks that what will I write, but once you sit down and introspect and make those stories, you'll see, okay, I have made an impact, and this will be consistent with what the school values. So yes, you need to go through the school website many times. You need to see what they value and how you can connect with it. That's it, and you'll make it.
Right. And thanks for introducing the next topic, which is the interview. So coming to your interview experience, Ishwar, you also had an admit from IIM Bangalore EPGP program. So how was the ISB interview and how was the IMB EPGP interview? How were both of these interviews different? What kind of preparation helped?
Sure. So the ISB interview happened in Chennai only, and it happened in a hotel, Radisson Blue or something like that. All the folks were extremely helpful, including the person who was standing outside the panel and guiding us into it. So I actually asked this person his opinion on how the panel is, and he said, "Yeah, they are pretty chill. You just need to go in and have a good conversation." So I started liking the vibe the moment I entered the premises, and I was like 20 minutes early, and I stayed there. I went inside when I was called, and it was like three former students, three alums who took my case, and initially for the first 2 minutes, even on this call, it's always a case with me. Like even on this call, the first 2 minutes were a little bit nervous, and after that, it just sets, right? So the same thing happened in the interview as well. In the first 2 minutes, that I was looking for my breath, and then I was able to take a sip of water, and I was able to lay down my stories exactly how we discussed during our mock interviews. So yes, just a small parenthesis. I did about 3 mocks with Shruti before the ISB interview, and the questions that were asked to me during the interview were absolutely inside the sample space of what Shruti and I discussed. So it was easy for me in that sense. It was a smooth conversation for about 40 minutes, I guess. And beyond a certain point, it became such a friendly chat that we started talking about likes and dislikes and what I did in US and Italy and which countries I visited and all that. So that was the ISB interview. The moment I got out of the interview, I kind of knew that I would get in, because they themselves give you a hint, I guess, especially if you are in. They themselves give you a hint. In fact, he said one of the three people said, "Welcome back to India. I hope you enjoy your time here." And so I kind of knew it at that point. There's such good energy coming out of the people who have interviewed you. You just know it. That was ISB. With respect to IIM Bangalore EPGP, I was interviewed by professors. That's the only difference, I guess, between ISB and the rest of the schools. ISB's interviews are taken by alums, and all IIMs use professors to take interviews. That was an interesting one. Again, about 45 minutes. I was able to talk to a couple of those professors. They asked me all the basic general questions like a professor would do, and they were. I think we spoke about foreign direct investments in India, especially with respect to the energy industry, because I pitched my case. Like I wanted to enter the energy industry, renewable energy industry after graduation. So I was asked, like, what are the constraints for foreign companies? Why is Elon Musk not producing in India and all that? So I had such technical questions, but even then it was pretty normal, and I somehow got in, and obviously with respect to the kind of peer group and the kind of learning that you get from my research, at least I felt that ISB was better, so I ended up choosing ISB.
Great. And in your case, Siddharth, how was the ISB interview experience and how did you prepare for the same? What are some suggestions that you would like to share?
So, like I said, so for essay, I was not quite sure whether I mean, because I had done it all myself, so I wasn't sure that if it's, the strongest essay possible. But with interview, I thought that I should prepare more. And because interview is like you have only one chance, right? Essay, you can write it again and again before submitting. For interview, so I just wanted some mocks before my actual interview to have someone who has experience of what is asked in those interviews. So I took your help for that. And whatever questions and the questions that you told were actually asked in the interview as well. But the thing is, you need to prepare before that. So you can't just go blank into the interview, although you know everything. But unless you have introspected that and prepared for that, you won't be able to put that across clearly in the interview. So it's very important to have 2 or 3 mocks, think about all those questions very deeply before the interview. So that is my experience of preparing for ISB interview. And the actual interview was actually very nice because I had prepared well. So it was conversational interview. There was no grilling as such, and all the people I've talked to as well. So they only grill you based on if they're trying to understand what your goals are. It will never be like technical questions or some. They are grilling you for no reason. They will only grill you to understand whether what you're saying your goals are actually genuinely your goals, and you understand what goes into that kind of job. So it's not a grilling interview, it will be a conversational interview. So it was a really smooth experience.
Great. And Anchika, how was the early entry option interview? Do you think it was you were sufficiently prepared, and what all preparation actually helped? Plus, at the same time, was there? Of course, you've not seen the PGP interview, but do you think it was soft at some place, and what are the things that they were looking for? Because you have lesser work experience.
Uh, I'm not sure if it was different or softer than the PGP interview, normal interview, but it was the interview was mostly about, and I believe that's how ISB interviews are. They don't talk about current affairs or general knowledge or things like that. They just want to know what you are doing, how that connects to why you want to do MBA. So the interview is only about you, your work experience, your story, and how it connects to why you want to do MBA. So if you're like I said about the essay, if you're thorough about the about your work experience, what you're doing, how it connects to your goals, your short term goals, your long term goals, then the interview is pretty easy. And they so my interview experience was also like that. They mostly asked me about my work experience, what I'm doing, and why what I'm doing is not enough, and why would I want to do MBA. And since I had worked for a very less time, so they were mostly focusing on if what has happened in 1 year that I chose to do MBA. So I was prepared for all those kind of questions. So it was smooth for me. And and mock interviews really help, because when I first gave I took about 4 mock interviews, and in my after my first mock interview I asked Shruti that how did I do on a scale of 10, and she said 2. So I was like, okay, now how am I going to reach to 10? But after the fourth mock interview she said, okay, it's 8 now. So mock interviews really help. I was not very I was very superficial about my work experience. So when I got in depth of my work experience, it became better, and it also gave me confidence because I knew what I'm doing. So just be thorough about whatever you are doing, your story, your work experience.
Right. And Swar, in your case, how did you relate your non-traditional work experience to what the interviewers are looking for? How was it difficult, and what was the interview experience like?
So I believe that if you've written your essays yourself and have introspected well, it becomes very easy in the interview. And if you know your story, because they're going to ask related to your work experience only, why MBA, why only ISB, and where you want to go. How will ISB help bridge that gap? And this is what you write in your essay, which is basically your statement of purpose. So if you know these things very well, then it becomes very easy to go through the interview. Yes, mocks will help you a lot. It will bring that nervousness down. And the panel is, in my case, at least I would say the panel was very nice. I was very nervous before going inside, but they made me so comfortable that then it was just a conversation basically I was having with anyone. They were asking me general questions like what were my goals, why I wanted to do ISP after such a coming from merchant navy. And if I was clear on that, I was able to cruise through them very smoothly. So it's that only. If you know your story very well, interview is easy. I think all you need to maintain is some hygiene, and they'll verify the information that you've written in your application. So if you have written it yourself, if your story is true, then it's very easy for you. Then it's just a conversation with any other person. So it's just about maintaining hygiene and knowing yourself better and knowing your goals better. The more you know, the more you introspect, it becomes easy for you.
Right. And are there any inputs on the format of the interview? Would you like to share in terms of, say, basically the questions are available everywhere, so it's not about getting the questions which are asked in the interview. You always know what questions they are looking for. It is about why MBA, why you, and why do you want to come to ISB? What have you done that is that has prepared you for this? So what exactly goes into preparing for a strong interview is the introspection that you put into it, and the more in depth you go into your stories in terms of a conversational manner. So what you are writing on paper is very different when you are putting it across in person. So any tips or things that you prepared for, or anything that you did which you thought that helped you in the final interview process? Would you like to share any tips, any of the panelists?
For me, I think it was giving mocks, and as far as a person knows his or her story, it will be easy for them. So you should give mocks, and give mocks with people whose opinion you will value, who know what they are doing. So that is one of the main things, and you should be open for criticism that time also. And that's it. I
Yeah.
believe that knowing yourself is the best way out,
And
and
Ishwar and Siddharth.
not cramming up your answers. It becomes very evident if you're just speaking like a robot. So bringing out your answers in a conversational point.
Yes.
So that's it.
Ishwar, you were about to say something.
So this was my third shot at ISB. So the first shot was back in 2014 for YLP, which I got rejected. 2017 or 16 again for the 17 batch. That was for PGP. I got rejected again. And this time I got through. And when I look back in retrospect, what I find was differing levels of desperation. So and also the healthiness of that desperation. So back during my YLP application, I felt that I was desperate because of peer pressure. That is unhealthy desperation. So that won't work, and it did not work, and it showed during my interview. Next time I was desperate, but did not have the means or resources to actually vouch for me at that point. Just two and a half years of experience in KPMG doing risk consulting after a chemical engineering background. That was a difficult story to build, and that desperation was like it's not on target. This time, though, the kind of desperation that I had was extremely healthy because I knew that I crafted my career in a way that will culminate into an MBA course. And that desperation got me into the, let's say, mindset of having understood myself really well. And as Swar said, beyond that, since I knew my profile really well and knew the stuff that I was putting into the application, it was fairly easy for me to cruise through the interview.
Yes. And
For
Siddharth and
me,
Anshika, would you like to add? Yes, please.
yeah, I think it's very important to have a mock with somebody who does not know your work or who is not from your field, because you will be saying something and you don't know how someone who is not from your field will perceive it. So it's very important that someone who does not know your work. So for example, I am from a CA background, so I might use some jargon, or I might use some words which might not be relevant for someone who is not from my field. So it's very important to do it from do mocks with someone who's not from your field. And also, like Ishwar said, so it's very important to realize that it's not your last chance. So don't be that nervous. So a lot of people, they are nervous just because they think that it's my last shot or anything. You'll get chances again and again. If ISB does not happen, something else will happen. So don't think that it's your last shot.
Don't panic. Yes. Anshika, any inputs from your end?
So actually, when I was preparing, I don't know if it's the same for others also, but since I was going for the interview in 1 year of work experience, so what I did was when I was preparing, I if they ask me what do I do in my work, so if I'm saying, for example, I make sales trends, so every word that I was using in my every answer, I was prepared for a cross question for that. That what if they ask me what kind of trends, what kind of sales, what kind of company, what kind of competitors. So since I did not have a lot of experience, so I thought that any cross question that could come in my way, I should have an answer for that. So that is how I prepared, because I was nervous. What if something comes and I don't know the answer to that. So what I did was I just prepared for it, that for every cross question that could have been there. So for early entry option, I think that is good, because in corporate there is not too much actual work that you do in 1 year. You are just given, especially for the analyst, you are just given the work, and you do it. You don't know a lot of in depth of it. So I prepared like that I was prepared for every cross question, every word that I was using in my answer. So yeah.
Yes. Right. And so that brings us towards we've already overshot around 5-7 minutes from the scheduled time. And thank you all the panel members for joining us and taking out the time to share your inputs. I believe this will be very valuable for people who are preparing for their ISB applications, even their GMAT journeys. We have just one last question before we leave. Abhinav has joined us, and he says that, as you mentioned, the average work ex of the class is around 4 to 5 years. Would it be difficult for people coming in with just 2 years of experience? Let's say the difficulty or bias in placements or exchange programs, etc. Exchange, I believe, exchange programs you are referring to. So, Abhinav, what happens is that once you are admitted to the program, you should trust the school for their process. So, if they have a program which is taking up an intake of 2 to 20 years or 25 years of work experience, then it is trust them for managing everything. If you have realistic expectations, you have actually worked on setting the right goals, and it matches with what the school is offering, then I don't see there is any difficulty. We have looked at this process year on year since quite a few years now, so I don't see a difficulty or any bias in placements. It is just that you need to be very focused. The journey, the onus of your successful journey is on you. So trust the process and work for it. It is not that your work stops at the time of you getting admitted. Everybody who's going into the program now is actually working on building their resume. They're actually working on case interviews, whatever career journeys they are planning forthwards from their MBA. So that work never stops. So if you're putting in that input and you have the right expectations, I don't think there's any difficulty or any bias that you will face in this process. And thank you once again, panel members, for your time and inputs. And any of the viewers, in case you want to, reach out to the panel members, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. I will share their contacts as well. You can get in touch with us, and we can put you in touch with them for any specific queries if you have. And feel free to reach out to us for any queries that you have on the admissions process as well. So all the best, and all the best, Anshika, Swar, Ishwar, and Siddharth, for your ongoing entry into ISB. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.